Ketamine, what is it like? It was wild. I was above my body looking down, floating. Let's get into it. Kyle Ruggeri, the Soberdog, coming at you. Before I get into my experience with ketamine, I want to thank everyone for the love and support. You guys are the best. If you want to help support Soberdogs, YouTube nails a lot of my videos for demonetization, so check out Soberdogs Patreon. I'll put a link in the comments and in the description. Appreciate everything. All right, let's get right into ketamine. Ketamine. The last video I put up was all about the history of ketamine, where it came from, what it's used for. Throughout that whole time, it's always been somewhat of a popular party drug. I wouldn't say popular, but it's right under the scene. Not as popular as like Molly and ecstasy, but it's right there. Raves, party drug, you know, whatever. So I've done ketamine the whole gambit, so to speak. I did it in high school, recreationally, for a high, all the way to sitting in a therapist's office with a doctor, prescription to help with depression. So I've done the whole gambit of it, and it is some wild, different experiences. So my first experience with ketamine in high school, a buddy of mine brought it to a party. We were at a party and he got some and we decided to try it. The first thing I noticed was the taste. Up to that point in time, I'd snorted some other substances, but mostly Coke. The taste was awful compared to Coke. I didn't like the taste and it hurt snorting it because my buddy didn't cut it up enough, and I think in general it just hurts more. But that's the first thing I noticed. So do it. 4 or 5 minutes into it, what I noticed is everything slowed down. Like literally my body, my heart rate, and the whole world. Just like everything slowed a little bit. Just like that. Now that night I was also drinking, so I'm sure the ketamine and the alcohol, you know, were feeding each other. Then I remember going down to where all the people were in the party. So when I went back down to the party, I remember it being like a movie scene, like a movie when somebody's walking through a party, maybe on their way out to the exit, and the camera's pretending to be their eyes, and like everything's a little blurry and it slowed everything down, and it was like there was kind of a bubble in front of my face. I was looking at everything through this little bubble. And it just was slower and like, whoa, you know, a whole just condensed, slow down effect of life. I only did that one and a little bit of line. So if I had to figure out the milligrams based on what I know now, my complete rough guess would be like 40 to 80. And that's what I remember for the rest of the night. Somewhat pleasurable, just slowed down, slowed me down, slowed the world down. That was my feeling of it. Now, the big one, the one you guys want to hear about, I did it in a therapist's office. This is somewhat recently, and I did 600 milligrams. Wow, was that a whole different experience. So this whole experience was different from top to bottom because I'm doing this the proper way in a medical setting. It's over the course of time. So it was just different for me, and I wanted to make sure I do it that way because I take my recovery and sobriety very seriously. So, you know, I did everything according to the doctors, exactly as described. So I met with a doctor, we had a visit, then another visit, they prescribed it, then I go to a therapist's office, and I took the ketamine in a therapist's office under his supervision with a doctor in the room right next door. And they have all these protocols and things they do along with it. So I take the first 300 milligram tablet and put it under my tongue. You sit there and you let it dissolve for 10 minutes, and then you spit out your excess spit. So I did that. First thing I noticed was at about 6 minutes, I remember thinking, I closed my eyes and I was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling anything. Next thing I know, he says, hey, 10 minutes is up, you could spit now. And I opened my eyes and I was just, whoa, awe, you know, gone. The biggest thing I noticed was the spatial recognition. For me, it was like immediately, woo, the room was 5 times as big, the spatial recognition. So normally how the room was is I was, you know, 4 feet across from the therapist. You know, his room's probably 12 foot by 8 foot, give or take. To me, it felt like I was 40 feet across from him. just, whoa, it backed everything up. The second thing I noticed was a pressure on my eyes. It felt like they were balloons being blown up. So ketamine can increase your blood pressure, and there's a specific side effect that has to do with glaucoma where it can put pressure on the eyes. I noticed that, and I remember thinking, shit, if this whole thing's gonna be like that, this is gonna suck. This isn't pleasurable, it hurt. So we waited a couple minutes, and he's like, all right, you could do the second dose now. So I put the second 300 under my tongue, closed my eyes. 2-3 minutes into that, the pressure went away. So that was beautiful. Now I'm back to just going. By the time that second 10 minutes was up, I was gone. I was in another dimension. Again, that bubble feeling of like just looking at the world through a bubble. Very detached feeling, the floating above the body. Like I'm looking down on the whole therapist room. I could see him, I could see me, I could see everything. Very detached feeling. It really is wild how these substances can open up a whole new way of thinking. The same way of thinking I've had for 36 years of life is just in a matter of minutes opened up and flipped on its head. Like, wow, it's like you're running a mile through this zigzag trail, forests with prickly bushes and all that, and there's a straight forward, clean, clear path right next to you, but you can't see it your whole life. And all of a sudden it's like, psh, right there. But you don't see it until somebody showed it to you. I'd be sitting there, and then I would go for about 7-8 minutes, just gone. I would forget who I am, where I am, what I am, all of it. Forget that I'm human, forget my name is Kyle, forget I'm in a therapist's office, all of it. And just, go through these processes of past, trauma and problems and situations. And then like 8 minutes in, something, usually for me, it was my necklace would like fall or move or something, and it would pop me back into existence. And I'd be like, oh, I'm in a therapist's office, I'm doing this, and I remember where I am, and then a minute later, dive right back into like the other realm. But again, versus classic psychedelics, my main difference was with classic psychedelics, you could trip more, like you're seeing more hallucinations, like shadows and lights and things are moving. I didn't get that as much, like there was a haze over the world, but that was it. I'm in that spatial thing, but no like, the lights weren't different colors and dimming and stuff. With psychedelics, my experience was like my body just felt good, but with this, it was harder on the body, I could feel. It was affecting my body more. Not necessarily in a bad way, it was just like a more powerful chemical for the body. I was unable to walk during this session. And like words, I could string together maybe 2 words on ketamine. I've been really far gone on psychedelics, but it was never, I guess, as powerful on the body. And that's why this is an anesthetic. I mean, it could shut down your body, and that's why they give it to people before surgery. At the end, I'm about to come out of it, and I just remember I started thinking about Gemma, my dog, the one that's on the logo of Soberdogs. We had to put her to sleep a couple months prior, and I started crying thinking about it, but I knew she was in a better place. It's really like a deep spiritual, internal, kind of feeling. And so we end the session, and they make you get a ride, and I'm glad they do, because I could not have drove. I walked out to the car very loopy, very out of it, and the therapist asked you if you want to talk about it, and I was like, not right now, I want to process it. And then I came back a couple days later, and we talked about a bunch of stuff and processed it and went through it. Overall, very good experience to me. Very, very helpful, specifically with solitary confinement trauma in the past. It definitely has helped me. You guys know it's a big thing for me. It really fucked me up. I'm not promoting it or recommending it necessarily. It's to each their own, to everybody, up to you. Make sure you do it the proper way if anyone's going to, and tell them the truth about any of your medications or anything, because this can interact with a lot of stuff. Also, it can be addictive. You got to be careful. Ketamine is substantially more addictive than like mushrooms or LSD, which pretty much those have been shown to show almost no addictiveness at all. Ketamine definitely can, as we saw in the Matthew Perry situation. You got to be careful. I only did it that once. If it was cheaper, I may have done it a couple more sessions. The protocol is 8 sessions over I think 6 months. I only did 1, and that was fine. Overall, it definitely helped me a lot. And for the couple people that might be like, well, you did a drug, that's a relapse, that's that's not sobriety. I don't agree with you. You're entitled to your opinion, but that's not it at all to me. I know a million people in recovery that have gotten surgery and gotten anesthetics and fentanyl and busted a knee and gotten painkillers, muscle relaxers, had a panic attack and gotten Xanax and Benzos. And it's always been taught to me, and this is how I live. Recovery in AA does not supersede medical supervision, first of all. And second of all, if I'm doing something the way that the doctor prescribed it, not abusing it, knowing my motives of it, if I busted my knee and had to go to the hospital and was in excruciating pain and they gave me a painkiller, that's it. You do what you got to do. So now if I get a prescription for those painkillers and bring them home and start taking them and lying to people and abusing them, that's different. If I am doing ketamine at home, if I'm not doing it in the doctor's supervision, those are all the motives behind it for the reasoning. So to me, it's another medical thing or procedure that was helpful. That's my experience with ketamine. Overall, wild, disassociating, floating feeling. But that's what it was. Very crazy. You guys are the best. K Ruggs, a sober dog, and I'm out. Hey, see ya.